Have you ever in the past 2 years felt like giving up? Like you're digging in, there's something hard. You're like, man, maybe I just need to take the quote unquote easier out. Have you ever felt like giving up?
So many
Yeah.
times, more than I could tell you. Yeah. I think that that's a common pitfall for entrepreneurs because we're inherently just so driven, right? So purpose driven, chasing after whatever our goal or directive is, right? And I've realized that you cannot microwave success, right? Success does not come in your time. It comes in God's time, right?
Yep.
And so me just being so focused and determined because of where I've been, because I've had a past that because of my decisions has been unfavorable, right? Spending 5 years in prison was the worst, yet the best thing that ever happened to me because it's there that my life was transformed from the inside out, right? And now I have the tenacity to never give up because I'm just so focused on rewriting that narrative, and creating a life of purpose that not only inspires my family and those closest to me, but, you can leave your footprint on humanity.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Carrot Cast. I've got an amazing guest with me today, and I'll introduce you to him here in a second. But y'all, one of the cool things I always love to do with the Carrot Cast, we've got the Trevor Truck Talks that kind of are like behind the scenes, what's coming out of my mind, out of my heart as I'm driving to or from my house. And then we're fortunate enough to be able to have so many amazing clients here at Carrot that we get to bring them on the podcast. We get to talk about their journey, their stories, what they're doing, how they're succeeding, what their losses are, how they're winning with Carrot, all that kind of stuff. And so today we get to bring on a guest of mine, Ben Lovro. And Ben's over on the East Coast. We're going to break down what his business is, how he got started, all that kind of stuff, where his business is now. They do really good consistent deals every single month, between 4 and 6 deals a month. And they're in multiple different areas, to multiple different states as far as I know. So we'll dig into all that. But one of the things right before I hit record in this, that's one of the most exciting things where I'm pumped about this podcast is we can talk real estate stuff all day long, which we're going to talk about a lot of real estate stuff in here. But the mindset stuff, especially when things get harder, if a market gets harder, things like that is the biggest part. So we're going to dig into mindset stuff and really how Ben has honed and tweaked his mindset to get him from where he was to where he is. So welcome on the podcast, man. Welcome on the Carrotcast.
Thank you, Trevor. It's an absolute honor to be on here today, man.
Dude, it's been a long time coming. We were talking about before I hit record that your name has been popping around my mind for a while, and just so appreciative to Brady on my team to make that connection. I think you reached out, but making that connection, like, let's get Ben on because you're doing some really cool stuff over there, and it's not easy. I think anyone can relate. It's not easy to get a business going, get an idea rolling, and now you've got to the point to where you're crushing it in Google and the rankings. You're bringing in multiple deals a month, 4 to 6 a month, and you're in the middle of a rebrand and all kinds of cool stuff. So we're gonna unpack all that. But dude, let's give people some context. So, who are you? Where do you live? What's your business do? Like, what does your business look like right now?
Yep. So I was born and raised in New Mexico, of all places. We'll jump in the story later on in the interview. But moved out to South Carolina, living in Columbia, which happens to be the state capital. Got here in 2014, and it was just a shift in my life, transformation phase. My auntie and uncle ended up offering to help me relocate, establish myself, and really get off on a new page. So from there, man, I was waiting tables, busting my chops, working every single day, just, working, saving. And it brought me to a place where I realized that I needed to start working smarter and not harder, right? And because of my past, I realized that I can't just go to a university and, get some degree that I could present to a corporate employer. If I wanted to build something of significance, I would have to put in the work myself and build it from the ground up. So out here in Columbia, we've been in the real estate industry about 3 years, not super long.
Yeah.
And from there progressed from, learning marketing, learning the mindset of a seller, started wholesaling, and we've scaled up a good bit and, really branched out with our rehab division.
Dude, so I definitely want to dive into the marketing side. I want to dive into, how you guys scaled up past that first couple deals and things like that. But I think one thing, especially for the newer investors or agents, right? There's a lot of real estate agents that are starting to listen to the Carrot Cast. And if you're a real estate agent, why should you continue to be on this episode? Well, first of all, Ben's wife's an agent, but y'all, you guys need to be listening. You guys need to be listening to what real estate investors are doing, because they're out there serving clients that with the solution that unless you're an investor agent, you just oftentimes can't serve those clients as well with that solution, and vice versa. There's things you guys can do as agents that the investor traditionally can't do unless they're an investor agent or work with someone tightly. So we're gonna dive into that. But Ben, dude, tell us about your first deal, man. So you're waiting tables. I guess number one, let's even go back further than that. You're waiting tables. When did you come up with the idea, or the idea crossed your path to go, hey, this real estate thing might be interesting?
Sure. So my first business idea, I wanted to launch a DJ company because it's something that I did in the past. So I figured, why not take the same skills that I used to play in nightclubs and dance parties and kind of pivot into more of like the wedding, private event, corporate function industry. I started building that, really working, striving towards that goal. And I read a simple book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the principle, begin with the end in mind, changed the entire trajectory of my life, right? I just thought, do I really want to be up there, 50-year-old DJ hyping the crowd up? It might be cool in the time, but what do I do at the next step? Shortly thereafter, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A lot of real estate investors, that was the turning point for them as well.
Yep.
But man, that just opened up my eyes. And from that moment forward, after I finished that book, I knew that in some shape or some fashion that real estate would be the vehicle. So I just started studying from there, man. Started diving in, trying to learn what I was doing. I bought my first investment property out of state with cash. This is all money that I worked my tail off waiting tables. Tons of risk in it. It was a big learning lesson. I could have lost my tail. Luckily, I made like a small profit 8 months later. But in that process, man, I learned that there was more strategic ways to have less exposure. And that's where I stumbled into wholesaling.
Dude, so that first deal that you bought, how did you find it? I guess I'm just curious, right? How did you find it? Did you end up, so you said you sold it 8 months later. Yep. What did you do? So you bought it. Did you flip it? Like, what'd you do?
Yeah. So I was introduced to an older gentleman. He's known as the Foreclosure King, he's probably almost 70 years old now, been in the industry for a super long time. They deal with more like REOs, foreclosures, have a lot of relationships with the big banks. So they would get, these massive portfolios liquidated and come up with all these, bargain house properties. And I ended up buying a quadplex in LaPorte, Indiana, small little town in northern Indiana. And it seemed like a smoking deal. And it kind of was. I bought it. We had it under contract like the first week. I just listed it with an agent as is. And we had a contract on it. After that phase drew out, buyer withdrew because it needed a lot of work. So we listed it back on the market. It might have been more like 6 months. It felt like forever, right? But we finally got an offer on it. And after I paid out, the real estate commissions and everything else, I profited probably $4,000 to $5,000. But in that same scope, in that same time period, I started attending the local RIAs, got plugged in with some different investors, and everyone was wholesaling. I'm like, what is wholesaling? And that's just where all the homework, the research started.
Dude, so that's fascinating, because what happened with a lot of people is a lot of people would have that first experience, with that deal that didn't go quite as well as you wanted. It was out of state and there's some complications, and they'd pull back and go, well, maybe this isn't for me. They'd go, if this is the model, I don't want to keep doing it. But there's a really big lesson there is anyone who's listening to this, if you've tried a strategy in your business, whether it's a marketing strategy or whether it's a real estate strategy, and it hasn't worked the way that you've wanted to the first time, you know what, guys, the funny thing is, oftentimes it doesn't. That's why you experiment. That's why you try new things. I think the big thing is just make sure you're not taking risks that are like betting the bank risks on the first handful of stuff. Because then if you do end up losing your shirt on that one, you probably wouldn't have the confidence or any money in the bank to go try to do the next thing. So you're showing up to the RIAs. How'd you get the first deal done, man? How'd you do the first wholesale?
First deal was a ringless voicemail. Some older lady. She was living out of state. She was in an assisted living center out in Atlanta, and got a call back from her, and she just, you could barely hear what she was saying, just, hey, I just got your message. And, started connecting the dots. I was pumped. She's like, I have 2 houses out there in Columbia. I'm like, awesome. That's where I'm at. And ended up, she named her price off the bat. She's like, I'd like $8,000 for this house. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, I can give you $5,000 cash, and we can close around a time frame that works best for you. And she right away, she's like, that'll work.
Okay.
So we ended up getting it, man. I mean, super small little distressed house, but we ended up wholesaling it, making $10,000 assignment fee.
Dude, so one thing that might be popping up for some people, right? Where I'm here in Oregon, dude, there's nothing that you can get for $5K here in Southern Oregon. What were your next deals like? Do you guys have a really good niche of kind of the cheaper houses, or what's the average home seller?
Very mixed. I would say the average house sale is about 150.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pretty affordable living out here for sure. And it's surprising because the economy really is pretty good.
Yep.
But South Carolina, just being, down in the South, a little bit slower paced. We haven't reached the high equity. We're in a very linear market, right? But some pockets are a little bit more distressed, and traditionally they're known for, having more like gang activity, more violence and stuff. So, I mean, it's not uncommon to find a house less than $10,000.
Yeah, dude. So I want to dig into the marketing side a little bit. We'll get into, because in my notes here, you're doing multiple deals a month right now. And so it started with that first one, was an RVM, Ringler's voicemail. And then, of course, you found some ways to build up marketing systems. You found some ways to make things happen more consistently, more predictability. What did you start doing after that with your marketing mix, with your business, to start to get more of that consistency? Because somewhere along the way, that 2 years or so, you went from getting that first one done, getting a $10,000 profit, to go, okay, cool, now I can go ramp this up.
Sure.
What do you do for marketing?
So it's been a process, man. And I was super blessed early on. I tried a couple direct mail campaigns. I was never consistent enough with it. And then I just stumbled into cold calling. So pretty quickly out of the gate, I ended up hiring a freelancer off of Upwork, and she's still working with me today. I didn't have a system or process in place at the time. I just had a simple cold calling script, and I knew that Mojo Dialer worked. So I set up an account. I put Mary in the seat. I kind of gave her a little bit of direction. She came with a little bit of cold calling background already. Okay. A lot of the Filipinos work for AT&T and big data companies. So I put her in the seat, and to be quite honest, she kind of carved out her own niche within the business. And I would just provide her with lists. We'd have a couple strategy calls throughout the day, and she'd just start plugging the leads in on a Slack channel. Right. And literally I built my business on cold calling. This is where it wasn't pimped out. Every other investor in the network wasn't cold calling. Like, it wasn't the hot new thing. TTP wasn't out at the time, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that shiny object. So we got in at the right time, and we built some pretty good results with it. As of recently, we've shifted a lot more to inbound marketing. And I will say too, I'll touch on this because Carrot has been such an integral part of my growth as an investor. Like, when I first started building a company, I'd walk through different things. We went through the 3 leads per day, and gave me a good grasp on understanding what SEO is, and how Google operates, just a ginormous web that's just crawling the internet, connecting one site to the other. And the more credibility that you have, because you have different sites pointing to yours, it helps gain in the rankings. So that really helped me early on. And I invested a lot of time. Like, when I say a lot, I spent a lot of time building the SEO on the back end, because you guys gave me the tool. Little did I know it was a super long-term strategy. Like, I knew it would take some time, but I'm like, if I'm going to be about this, I want to be seen as a market authority, right? So I took that, and then I outsourced that to another virtual assistant who had some SEO experience, but I made sure that he followed that process.
So you took that VA. Where'd you find that VA? Was it Upwork?
He was also off of Upwork. He lived in Bangladesh. And he already had some prior knowledge, but I've heard horror stories about, VAs talking about what they know, but not really having it. So I made him go through the entire training, and I always was prompt about, you need to follow this piece by piece, right? I'd already started it, if you will, but I kind of handed it off, warm handoff with the training. And about 6 months later, man, we were hitting the first page, and then within the first 9 months of doing SEO, we're ranking #1, which was incredible.
So this right here, I want to kind of break this down with and for people. So let's go backwards. What Ben said was he dove into it at first so he could understand the basics of it, right? Like in our 3 lead per day training, it starts at the very basics. It says, hey, if you don't even know what a search engine is, here's what it is and here's what it does, and then here's how it works, and here's the timeline you can expect and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I suggest everybody do. If you're wanting to rank well in Google, if you're wanting to get at the top of the Google spots where oftentimes your best leads are, your most motivated leads are. Now, you're going to get likely a higher volume from activating demand offline, right? You're going to get higher volume from offline because you're activating demand where people maybe aren't actively searching out a solution yet, but they have a problem. They're just not searching the solution out yet, possibly. But with inbound, they actively have it, and it's hurting enough that they're going online and saying, I need to solve this now, and let me do some searches. And so if you guys are wanting that, go in and get a grasp of what SEO is, go through some of the modules of the 3 lead per day. So you kind of at a high level understand what it is. If you're not wanting to put in the time or can't put in the time to do the work yourself. And then like Ben did, go find someone to outsource it to. I'll highlight something that he said here for sure. Then I want to toss you a couple more questions about that, because we get a lot of questions about VAs, about how do you find them to do it. But one thing he did say was he was very diligent to say, hey, yeah, you've got some SEO experience, but I want you to go through this training and apply this. Because one of the mistakes I've seen so many times, man, is someone to go to Fiverr or someone to go to Upwork or someone to go to whatever, and they'll hire an SEO expert. And that SEO expert is building backlinks by the thousands, and they're crappy backlinks. They're actually going to penalize your website. And so if you get a VA, legit, just send them through that training, have them go to our weekly coaching calls and ask questions. Like, just have them do the work for you, but have them go through our training to do it right. So when you got the VA, is there anything special you did when you posted? Anything special when you posted the ad in Upwork?
I was very serious about it. Like, you want to make sure that you're hiring the right person, right? So made sure that the post was very clear, seeking, virtual assistant with SEO experience, with search engine optimization experience. And then from there, what we asked them to do is, send us your cover letter, send us your credibility, any past resources that you might have. And then at the end of it, record a video of yourself explaining why you should be a good fit for our company, right? Good. You want to ask them to go through at least 3 to 4 extensive tasks that you're going to weed out 90% of the people, right? And you'll get left with maybe 3, if you're lucky, 3 people that are serious and they actually followed your direction point by point, right? Then you know that they're serious. Then you know that they are open and moldable to take what you're telling them, and they're going to actually do it, right? Because let's be honest, just human mindset, we're very weak creatures at heart. And, habits are instilled from a very young age. Unfortunately, most of us, we all have gaps, right? We all have those gaps in our life, but most of us don't have super empowering habits. And it's important, if you're hiring someone for your organization, to be able to make sure that they're willing to follow simple instructions.
Dude, in same thing, I want to sit in this a little bit for everybody, because the reason that's so important is because after that, Ben said, hey, go through this training and follow it step by step. And so if that person that's applying for your position at your job, or that's applying for that gig as a VA, if they can't take the 3 simple steps you give me in the gig description, then they're definitely not going to be taking the steps right once they go over to take the carrot training or whatever it is that they're doing, cold calling training, like whatever it is you're teaching them, they're going to skip steps. They're going to miss 100%. And then you're going to wonder, why am I not getting the result? Well, you probably won't be able to track why, because they're just skipping steps because that's their MO. That's their MO. So dude, let's kind of unpack the overall strategy a little bit. So one thing you mentioned a few minutes ago, you said, hey, cold calling, RVM's got my first deal. Cold calling is what really helped me to ramp things up. And I know you had several cold callers on at one time. You were kind of jamming on stuff. What did your numbers look like at that time as far as how many calls or how many leads would it take you guys to close a deal?
Sure. So at one point, I had 5 callers calling around the clock, right? All outsourced, all in the Philippines. We kind of built that team internally. So we had, 10, 15 leads per day in some cases. But with that being said, knowing the numbers and understanding, again, the difference between inbound leads and outbound leads, when we have a cold call lead, I would say our average lead to conversion, like lead to contract, is going to break down to about 1 in 60.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure it would be much more efficient having a stateside caller, right? Or calling yourself because you know the lingo, you know the mindset and how to relate to a seller in their unique distress situation.
Yep.
But in our business, it was about 1 in 60, right? So there came a time where I needed to ask myself, is this really honoring my time? Or now that I have an acquisitions manager, my acquisitions manager's time, weeding through all these leads. Like, yes, we'll pull out some gems, right? Yep. You got to sort through all the dirt to find that little nugget of gold. But when we really got efficient with inbound marketing, our SEO was ranking strong. And then, of course, PPC, pay-per-click, it changes everything. These are people that are raising their hands. Like you said, they've already identified that they need some type of a solution, right? Because whatever the case is, the common theme here is distress, right? Most people that we're called to serve are in distress situations. So instead of us just pulling lists that, the data has intellectualized and told us there's distress.
Yeah.
So we're aggressively reaching out to them where they're like, well, you called me, we're actually having people reach out to us, which our conversion rate for that's more like 1 in 8, 1 in 10. It's incredible.
Dude, I want to drill this into everyone listening to this because I talk about this. So I've been talking about it for 6 years. 6 years here at Carrot. I've been talking about it way before that. But y'all, the inbound side, like Ben said, it's not immediate. It takes trust. It takes execution. It takes patience. Depending on the market, it's going to be anywhere between 4 months on like the lowest end. If you've already got a domain that's already getting some sort of traction, that's already got some sort of backlinks going to it, might be on the top of page 2, bottom of page 1 already. Minimum like 4 months if you're executing SEO well to a well done website that loads fast, it's set up right, all that kind of stuff. But usually it's going to be between the 8 and 14 month mark. In Dallas, Brian Rockwell, we've talked about his story a lot. It took him about 12 to 13 months to go from nowhere to number 1 in Google in Dallas with him executing. And he rolled up his sleeves and did all the work. He outsourced the PPC. He did all the work. And he said, man, I treat it like a college course. I would do 2 to 3 hours of work a day. Now, do you have to do that much? No. Like some people work faster. Some people work slower. It doesn't matter. But he was carving out somewhere between 8 and 10 hours a week to execute SEO himself that first 6 months. But last month, in the month of February, as of the time we're recording this right now, he did his largest month ever with PPC and SEO in Dallas, y'all, one of the most competitive markets in the country. He was not the first. He wasn't even the 100th Carrot customer in that market. Okay, you can win markets when you're not the first, 5th, 10th, 12th, 100th. Now, he did $200,000 in wholesale fees last month with about
incredible
$25,000 in ad spend and then all the SEO momentum that he'd been building up for years.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So, dude, so you talked about the difference in inbound. Have you noticed any difference in your end, Ben, where the lead? So there's a couple things. Number one, your lead to close ratio, like you already mentioned, drastically increases on inbound versus any other marketing. Direct mail, cold calling, radio, TV. Those are all good. I'm not saying not to do them. But one thing that Ben pointed out that was amazing was he said, I've got to respect my time and our resources well. Do we want to be hunting down all 60 leads, talking to people, wasting our time? And how much does that deal actually cost us when you consider our time in it versus focusing on a longer term strategy that builds momentum where it's 1 in 8? That's way better. But are you guys seeing any difference with your deal size on inbound versus outbound?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's night and day. Night and day. And not only the deal size, like the amount of money you can work on it, but with the cold call leads, I cannot even tell you how many of these properties have liens, judgments, and all, they're bottom of the barrel properties, where inbound, more times than not, it's a nice home. It's a home that's worth more than $100,000. That's just a little bit deferred maintenance, where the person just needs help, right? Or loved one passed away, or they're behind on payments, whatever the situation, they're reaching out to us, and it's something to work with, right? I don't know what it is, but something with the cold calling, we have run into a lot of title issues.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's probably the list, right? Whatever list you're pulling, there's that issue that's going with it, dude. So I know you've got a small team. Your wife's an agent. Are you taking any of those leads, turning them into retail? Kind of, what are you guys doing with that? Because that's one thing I'm pretty hot on right now, man. I have been for about the past year. Is hybrid. So many investors are taking these leads and they're saying, they're tire kickers. They're looking for retail, and they throw them away. I'm going, no, guys, that right there's a 6-figure a year income. And you know what? You're not serving that seller. You're not serving that person. You're throwing them back out to the wolves, and they may not find someone who can actually help them, but you truly can. So what are you guys doing with those leads?
So I think of, I'm big on mindset and stuff. I think of everything like a funnel, right? That's what sales is, a sales funnel, traditional sales. Online marketing is not much different. So every lead that comes into the pipeline, you got your PPC, SEO, Facebook, wherever it's coming from, we're capturing that. We're trying to find that bottleneck, right? Identifying up front what bucket that falls into, right? Is it hot? Is it warm? Or is it a cold lead, right? The hot one, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? 20% of our deals should come like that. Like it's standing out that people will name their price up front. I want $80,000. $80,000, sometimes you don't even have to negotiate. They're that good. And then the media motivation, which, we have in the middle, we'll highlight it orange, big on like process maps and identifying stuff like that. But those take more follow-up, right? They say that 5 to 7 touches. It's the same with direct mail, same with communication. On the 5th to 7th touch is usually where your conversion happens, right? Okay. So I drill it into our acquisitions department. Let's make sure that we keep on following up, right? Not even talking about the sale. Service first, right? This is what we do. It's a service-based business. So instead of thinking about the dollar signs and how we convert this into a profit, let's think about the seller. The seller is a human being, right? They're in a position where they need help. So how can we best serve these people, come down to their level and understand exactly where they're at and create a win-win solution to put them where they need to be, right? And then, of course, cold leads, I drum it into the team as well. Cold leads, these people still need help, right? And with my wife being a real estate agent, we filter those straight through. And, if off the bat, they're saying they want retail. Well, in that case, it sounds like you might be the best fit, to list your house on the open market with a real estate agent. We have, some of the best agents in the area, would love to connect you with them, right? So once the leads come into the funnel, just identifying what bucket is that falling into, right? Red, orange, and blue, hot, warm, cold.
Dude, so all you real estate investors out there that are listening to this, and if you guys are not doing anything with your retail leads and working with real estate agent or becoming one or have one on your team, then like I said, I'm gonna reiterate it. You're not serving them well. Okay, you're trying to paint everything into a little pretty wholesale box. And by doing that, you're not only not serving them well, but you're losing business, you're losing income. The next thing, y'all, if you're an agent listening to this, okay, and there's a hunk of the people that are on the other side of the spectrum that are tire kickers. They're not ready to fix up their house. They're not serious. I can't sell that property. They need to have it. They're unrealistic. They need to sell it too soon, or whatever it is. Then you're trying to paint everything in your pretty little MLS box. You need to be working with a guy like Ben. And guys, I'm going to keep hammering this the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The industry's coming together, and if you're not willing to be a part of that, you're going to be outside of that, and you're going to be getting kicked down the curb pretty hard. So, dude, with your deals right now, so what does your marketing mix look like right now? Are you doing any offline still? Is it fully online and inbound with Carrot? Kind of what's your mix? We
stay pretty versatile. Big focus on PPC. SEO is still pretty credible. We don't spend quite as much time as we used to. So inbound leads are abundant. They're consistent. I still have 2 cold callers. I have split shifts. One comes in at 9:00 a.m. and he leaves at 2:00. at which point Mary takes over, and Mary's been my girl from the start. That girl is golden, man. She's a beast. She takes over and she calls until 7:00 p.m. every single day but Sunday. So, they're there to answer the phones. So any people that are calling that need to connect with somebody, we're getting that first touch, right? Because if we don't answer the phones off the bat, they're going to go to someone else, right? So they have that open. They can answer calls through CallRail. And then they're also calling through call tools, all day long, taking our old lists, recycling them, getting the new list that I send out to them, and just drumming through them. So it stays pretty consistent. We still have leads coming in the Slack channel. We're using Investor PO as a CRM or the drip sequences, right? But that's really it. I'll send some direct mail to probates because probates don't convert that well with cold calls for whatever reason. And that's really what the mix looks like.
And so what is that getting right now? Kind of what's your deal flow? Dude, share. People always kind of geek out over numbers, so share whatever you're comfortable with sharing. But so let's compare back to your waiting tables. You got that first deal done that kind of gave you a taste of real estate, but it was a little bit of a sour taste.
Yep.
You wholesaled your first deal with RVM. You started cold calling, but cold calling is an outbound strategy where it's an ebb and flow strategy, right?
Yep.
Where when you started using it, not a lot of people were using it, so it was less competitive. A lot of people started using it, became more competitive, so the strategy ebbed down as far as effectiveness. Which then there's other strategies, and I talk about this a lot. Inbound, y'all, hasn't yet. I'm not going to say it never will, but it hasn't yet had an ebb down. It just continues to get stronger because more and more people are using cell phones and especially going to Google to solve problems. Just like more and more people every year, you look at the e-commerce sales online every year they increase because more people are more comfortable to use the internet to make purchases and stuff. So inbound just keeps getting stronger. It doesn't have the ebb and flow that outbound has. And then now today, he's got a team. He's still doing some cold calling. Inbound's pulling in leads all the time for him. What's your business look like right now, man, with deal flow, numbers, things like that?
Sure. So there's a couple different departments now, right? We got acquisitions, which the lifeblood of our business. I built my business on acquisitions, right? Constant deal flow. We're never going to pull the plug on marketing, right? Keeping that running all season long, right? Marketing leads coming in. I have a full-time acquisitions manager. He is phenomenal. He didn't have any sales experience before. He was a college football player, right? He was a linebacker. So he's a headhunter, right? He's an athlete, talking about athletes. And he's driven and he understands the hunt, right? Understanding that hunt mentality. So I always drum it into him, service first. And he has taken our acquisitions department, and I can comfortably say that he has just crafted his own space there too, right? Early on, there was a lot of training and grooming and getting him ready, but now he crushes it, right? So having the right person and being able to get yourself out of that seat is super crucial, right? And then back-end VAs who can operate as lead managers. Okay. Recently, we've shifted to the rehab department, which my first couple deals, first deal was amazing. It was a wholesale. We bought it. That was the first deal I borrowed money on. Took it down, put $2,000 into it, relisted it, made a huge profit, $60K. And from there, I'm like, shoot, I started building my confidence a little bit because it took almost 2 years for me to actually start getting into the rehabs. The first experience was a little bit like ground shaking for me. So I was like, wow, let's be a little bit smarter, understand the sequence of a deal, how to get it done, and grow from there. So anyways, the next deal, I had a huge pain point. I had the wrong contractor in place. And, we ended up behind schedule, over budget, and the entire workplace was a mess. It looked like a war zone went off, right? I had to fire this guy halfway through the biggest project that I've done yet, huge 3,000 square foot house that we had to rip out walls and add bathrooms and stuff. And here I was like, crap, I don't have a crew. Luckily enough, oddly enough, my wife's ex-husband was like, he speaks Spanish, right? So we called him. I'm like, I need some Spanish workers. And we're like, do you know any Spanish guys that would be willing to step in and get some work done? He's, well, oddly enough, I just got laid off. I could use a job. So long story short, I was forced through that pain to build my own, internal organization with that. So he's now my full-time project manager.
Oh, cool.
And we've multiplied into 2 teams where we have 2 teams working around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
We got just sold a flip. We got 2 rehabs underway, and we close on 2 next week. So we'll have 4 projects going on right now.
That's exciting, man. That's really exciting. Are you, because there's a lot of wholesalers, and of course the market really does matter, but there's a lot of wholesalers that used to be flippers, rehabbers, and a couple of years ago they're like, hey, I'm switching my whole model to wholesaling, and then eventually they'll probably switch back as the market caters that for them. Yep. Are you, what's your outlook for the next year or 2 years for your business? Do you feel that there's still a good runway for rehabbing in your market? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So talking about, market and seeing the shift, right? I mean, if we could all see it, we'd all be rich, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can confidently say, I think we have another good summer, at least. I'd be shocked if we didn't, Summer is just hot. It's prime time. Everyone's out buying houses. So with us approaching those months, I have enough confidence in what we do, our ability, and with the market where it's heading, that I'm willing to leverage a little bit, After that, election season, there's a lot of unknown stuff. All the hype about the coronavirus, which I think that's just a publicity stunt.
Oh, yeah.
We are in an election year, right? Like, I understand, the public's worried and stuff, but mainstream media just filters all the fear down to us, and it's a sense of control, right? Yep. So I get it. The market, kind of took a dip. I don't really play in the stock market as much. I'd rather buy houses, but
I was a little departure. I was looking at a graphic this morning actually, and the graphic showed the last 5 or 6 big virus scares and the stock market dips. And it was like the Zika, the Corona, or not the Corona. Yeah, Corona was in there. You name them. Like there were a bunch of them the last decade. Every time, man, there was a massive stock dip in all of them. And the coronavirus stock dip isn't even the biggest one. It's not done yet. I think it's probably got another couple weeks in it. But that's just one lesson right there. I think you're 100% right. Is how do you look past that, the facade that you see in news or the facade that you see out there, and really look at the fundamentals, right? And that's one thing that you're doing in your market. You see, hey, here's some things that might look scary or might look great, but how do I really look at the fundamentals of this market? And I see, I'm strong on it for sure the next 6 months. And then after that, we'll kind of pull back and reevaluate. It sounds like that's kind of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Got to be smart, being able to try to see into the future.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Dude, I kind of want to dive into mindset stuff now. So we'll kind of wrap a little bit of the lead gen side into a bow, right? We talked about how he got started. We talked about where his first leads came from, why he's really dove in and committed to online in a big way, and how Carrot's helping him, how he's closing those into those leads and deals at a much higher rate than other stuff. Actually, let me dive into that really quick. Then we'll do mindset. So on the Carrot side, dude, you guys obviously do well. You could go get a custom site. You guys could go do that stuff. We have so many of the top investors that have the custom site and they end up coming to us because of performance and all that kind of stuff. But why did you choose Carrot early on? Why do you stay with Carrot now? And kind of what has Carrot helped you do in your business?
Sure. So first website I bought a Real Flow site, right? $50 a month. I'm like, let's give this a shot. And I saw a little activity, and I think this was right where you guys were, right before like the peak, right? Where Carrot was kind of just up and running. You guys were building momentum, starting to be seen as a credibility, not quite an authority figure, but with the constant, ebb and flow, getting your team out there and stuff. I think Adrian Nez was the first person that I saw, marketing Carrot. Carrot's cool. Amazing, this and that. And I ended up early on, I'd say a month or 2 after using Real Flow, giving Carrot a shot because I saw a lot of people talking about it, right? And I think Brent Moreno, who was actually my old business partner,
cool,
was on Carrot, and he's just telling me about structuring his business. And I'll say he's been a good mentor for me. He's always kind of had a step ahead, if you will, right? And him and Max Maxwell go way back. They were like best friends before any of them got into real estate.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were both in like marketing and Fortune 500 type of stuff. So anyways, he was on Investor Carrot, and, he was always really adamant about the quality of the site, and everything. So I took a leap, dove in, and just the trainings and the back end resources that you guys had to offer. I mean, I was hungry, waiting tables at night all day long. I was just sitting on my computer and I was learning and implementing. So seeing the growth from there, again, it's just incredible. And seeing your team grow, I think it seems like every single year you guys double the amount of employees because, just
it's awesome. Crazy, man. Like I can tell you, and I've talked about it a lot, but going into care, I didn't want a bunch of employees. I thought maybe 5 or 6 people. And as of recording this, we have 31 full-time employees, and we'll be, within 4 weeks, we'll be 35 full-time employees. And incredible. So it's a different ballgame, man. And I think this, I'll toss it back over to you on the carrot side, and then we'll move into mindset. Cause I think we both got some things to talk about with mindset, but it took a massive mindset shift to move from, I think that having a bunch of employees equals less freedom, less flexibility, to now me on the other side. I'm like, that was all just a line of BS that I was buying from people who hadn't done that successfully. And then you look at companies who had built teams successfully that gave them true freedom. And you look at Richard Branson, who the dude has like the ultimate freedom. He's the billionaire that other billionaires want to become. He's got a gazillion, might literally be a million, I don't know, employees, tons of businesses. And he has the freedom he has because he set it up the way he has with the right team. So I'll get off that soapbox. We can get back to it later. But back to the carrot side of it. So our team was growing and stuff like that. When did you go, man? Okay, yes, this tool is for me. I'm sticking with it. After you started to dig into stuff.
The moment I got on the back end, well, first it was super user friendly, right? Mm-hmm. You could plug and play everything from the get. But as soon as I got a taste of some of the resources on the back end, and I know you've grown exceedingly from that point too. I mean, the 3 lead per day training shifted my mindset in a major way, just understanding, the way that the internet, the way that Google works and what marketing is. I don't think a lot of us understand truly what marketing is in its simplest form. You're attracting the people that you do want into the pipeline and detracting everyone else, that you don't want. Right. But just, I will say the back end resources, man, and a lot of the trainings allowed me to have a better understanding on what is marketing, right? Because at the end of the day, it's what we do is less about real estate and more to be with being an expert marketer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, for sure. I love it, man. Well, dude, let's talk some mindset stuff now. So earlier, before we hit record, you were talking about the major mindset shifts that you've had to go through from where you moved from New Mexico to South Carolina. I'm sure there was a big shift there, waiting tables or some sort of shift there, man, that kicked that motivation in. And then also somewhere along the line, you've probably had multiple mindset shifts as an entrepreneur now around team, around whatever. So how do you, number one, protect your mind, protect your mindset on a daily, weekly basis? And what are some of the biggest mindset shifts you've had to make in order to get where you are just in the past 3 years, man? It's been a pretty quick journey so far.
I mean, honestly, number one is having a morning routine. Mm-hmm. Every single morning you need to get up and control your mindset, control the day, right? So repetitively, I'll get up, meditation, clearing my mind, ridding it of all the yuck, the negative voices in your head. And then prayer, always putting God first. Cool. And again, God renews our mind every single day. But from there, reading, opening up a book, and allowing those words to resonate inside of yourself. Because let's be honest, we live in this culture, in this world that we're surrounded by negativity, right? Yep. So many different naysayers and people criticizing your vision, your goals, right? It's just what we do. Mm-hmm. When I was waiting tables, the toxic environment of, servers talking behind others' backs, or, blabber mouthing about the people that they just serve. Like, you just get filled with all this yuck, right? Mm-hmm. It's not easy being a human being, right? We're listening to 2 different voices every day. We got the good voice, right? The good wolf that's encouraging us and telling us that we can do anything that we set our mind to. And then you got the voice of doubt, right? Which is like Satan sitting on your shoulder telling you that you'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
So understanding the importance of controlling that energy and controlling your space between your 2 ears is one of the most important things. And I would say the most important thing to your success as an entrepreneur.
No, dude, one of the things that I started doing probably 3 years ago was I would open up my phone and I'd flip it, like when I'm getting the kids' lunch ready for the day, or making breakfast in the morning or something. I put my phone on the counter and flip up YouTube, and I watched enough Tony Robbins videos, enough like motivational stuff that's all that shows up my YouTube feed, except for like on the occasional 9-year-old girl cartoons, because my daughters like grab it and start flipping through YouTube. But I'll flip through that, and I'll usually pick a Tony Robbins video. I've watched certain ones like probably dozens of times, or a video from Matthew McConaughey. He's an amazing one on YouTube that I love. But what are some of those tools you use? Do you use a certain app for meditation, or you just kind of go off the cuff? Do you use any tools to help kind of urge that process along?
Sure. So I also watch a lot of YouTube, priming my mind. Like, Tony Robbins, Les Brown says, like, prime your mind, fill it with those positive affirmations. But as far as meditation, Headspace.
Cool.
Headspace is a pretty cool app that you can do. And it just guided meditation, 10, 15 minutes just to clear your mind, right? And open it up to fill it with new gems, with new mindsets and ideas that can help not only better your skills as an individual and a business owner, but help you to be more focused throughout the day, right? Because focus is huge.
Dude, have you taken a little turn on you here? Have you ever in the past 2 years felt like giving up? Like you're digging in, there's something hard. You're like, man, maybe I just need to take the quote unquote easier out. Have you ever felt like giving up?
So many times, more than I could tell you. Yeah. I think that's a common pitfall for entrepreneurs, because we're inherently just so driven, right? So purpose driven, chasing after whatever our goal or directive is, right? And I've realized that you cannot microwave success, right? Success does not come in your time. It comes in God's time. Right.
Yep.
And so me just being so focused and determined because of where I've been, because I've had a past that because of my decisions has been unfavorable, right? Spending 5 years in prison was the worst, yet the best thing that ever happened to me, because it's there that my life was transformed from the inside out. Right. And now I have the tenacity to never give up, because I'm just so focused on rewriting that narrative, and creating a life of purpose that not only inspires my family and those closest to me, but, you can leave your footprint on humanity.
Dude.
So
what do you, I want to dig into that a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of wholesalers, flippers, agents that are going to listen to this. And most people, when they get into real estate in any way, it's usually about the money, or I'll say it a lot, right? Freedom, flexibility, finances, and then the last part's impact. And I think most people never get to number 4. Most people never intentionally get to, number 4. I'm not going to say they're not making an impact. I'm just saying they don't make that the reason they're doing it. It's just like, oh, and by the way, I'll do this other thing over here.
Yep.
So for me, I've discovered that the ultimate thing that makes it so I don't want to give up and I don't do it, not that it doesn't cross my mind, right? But that I choose not to go down that path, is the impact path. That's the reason for me. Because even when you're hitting your financial goals, sometimes you just like, damn, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I thought the clouds would magically part once I got to this number, and you get there and you discover it doesn't. And then you go into a mastermind or whatever it is, and there's someone else doing this, like 100,000 a month or whatever. You're like, well, I don't know, maybe that's it. Like maybe I need to do that, and then the clouds will part. And I can tell you, man, like at 100,000 a month, doesn't do it. At 500,000, at $800,000 a month, it doesn't do it. It's all about purpose. So for you, how are you baking purpose into what you do?
Wow, that's a tough question. I would say focusing on where I want to go, right? And impact is huge with me as well. Like what story do I want to tell, right? Or what story do I want told after I'm gone? And I'm always thinking and beginning again with the end in mind. Where are we going? Not getting caught up on the hamster wheel of the daily hustle and bustle and, hammering through these activities so I can chase that dollar, but identifying where am I going? Where do I want to go? Right. And I love your epic planning, man. I'll sit on that every single year because it's huge. Like write out your 10-year plan, right? Your 5-year goals, and reverse engineer that. Goal setting does not have to be overly complicated. Just figure out where you want to go and then create a plan step by step on how you plan to get there.
Yep.
That's simple.
Dude, one thing I heard from my coach is about 6 months ago. He was probably about 8 months ago. He was challenging me. He said, Trevor, he goes, what do you want to do with your business? Now I own Carrot. I own properties. I'm an investor in other software companies and other things. But he was really talking about Carrot in that respect. He said, what do you want to do with Carrot? And I absolutely love what I'm doing. I love my team. That to me is the primary reason I'm doing it. How do I become a better leader? How do I learn how to lead leaders? Things like that. Now, is it hard? Heck yeah. Are there things even this week that I've had to deal with that I'd much rather go golfing or not? Yes, for sure. But I know I'm growing through this. But he asked this question. He said, or he made the statement. He said, usually when you're in a phase where you're kind of like either burnout in business or you're in a funk. Yeah, I think entrepreneurs, all of us, I know all of us, just like normal people that aren't entrepreneurs, but it feels like entrepreneurs, there's like this funk cycle. I know for me, it's probably about every 4 to 6 months. I'll get into a funk. It could be for a week. It could be for 4 weeks. And it's always the same thing that pulls me out of it. And it's what you said before about vision. I pull back. And what Dan said, he said, man, he goes, whenever you get into those funks, it's usually because you've run out of runway with your vision. You've run out of runway with your vision. You got to the end of that vision. And now it's cloudy and you don't have anything crazy exciting, crystal clear to put that car back in gear and move forward on. And what you do at that point is you stop. Like you ran out of runway and you stop or you slow down. And so every single time, whenever I get in those big funks, I clear out my schedule. I pull back and I go, okay, let me get reacquainted with my vision. Let me get reacquainted with why I'm doing this. Let me get reacquainted with where I'm going. And I'll bring up that 20-year vision story that I write every year. I'll bring up that 10-year. I'll bring up that 5-year. I'll read those things. I go, man, am I still excited about these things? Yeah, heck yeah, I am. I just forgot about them. I let the weeds of my business, I let that stuff kind of cloud it all out. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll do the energy audit at that point. Like, sweet, energy audit this thing out, line down the middle of the paper. For those of you who have not done the energy audit, carrot.com/energy, carrot.com/energy. You can grab my energy audit. Do it every quarter, y'all. It'll take you 15 minutes, change your life. I'll energy audit out. And then by the end of it, I'm like, man, I'm clear on where I want to go. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to grow this thing more rather than just kind of pumping the brakes. And also, you know what? I'm excited about my day now. I'm excited about my week now because now I'm starting to plan it based off of what gives me energy versus letting myself get pulled in. Do you have a process in your end, man, that whenever you get kind of in those funks, does something work for you that you repeat, or are you still trying to work out your process there?
I think every single day we're working out some type of process, right? Mm-hmm. It's naturally, in order to get better, we need to continually critique. But for me, man, stepping aside, giving myself a full couple days just to unwind, right? Mm-hmm. Clear my mind and bring a journal. Let's write it out, right? Yeah. It's not always 10-year plan, 5-year plan, but let's review where we've been, cool. Right? And everything that's got us to the point where we are today. And let's from there, pour more into it and figure out where we're going. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of it too is identifying our strengths and getting rid of the rest, because when I'm not operating in my strengths, when I'm bogged down by paperwork or filing or turning on lights for a property that we just bought, it drains me, and it gets me out of my flow, mm-hmm. gets me out of the icky guy, right? Yep. It pulls me out. And I start to feel dead inside because I know that this is not where I need to be at that moment. Mm. So I think a big part is understanding, your calling, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think every day we're discovering that more and more, but understanding what you're called to do and what you're good at and building a power team around the rest. Mm.
Dude, I could talk with you for hours more, man. I've got a ton of notes here. And one of the big things, dude, is I'm so proud of what you've done. You've made that massive shift in your life. Like, see, you took the fuel, man. You took that fuel of you have context now for what happens when you go down one path, and you had the chance to go, man, I went down this path and I don't like it. That's not me. I'm choosing to change things and not just like tweak a couple things. It sounds like you fundamentally had to change who you were becoming in order to become the dude that you are now. And one of the things that you started to do, same thing with me in 2016, man, when I started to look at my energy audit, like, man, I make a lot of money writing articles, right? Like that's what gets ranked in Google, attracts a lot of customers, but drains my energy. I really love talking to people like you. I love telling my story. I love getting the story from you guys. And that's why we started the podcast. So you have your own podcast. So, I think Adrian was on it recently, I believe.
Yep.
Dude, why don't you tell me about why you started the podcast? What is it? Where can people find the podcast?
Sure. So Flip Connect Media podcast, it just started out by my desire to grow and to add value to others, right? Mm-hmm. Real estate was the niche that I was in. So it's been focused on just interviewing investors, mm-hmm. right? I still have the deep mindset and leadership in my belly, right? That fire inside that I always feel like there's something more outside of real estate, because real estate is the vehicle, mm-hmm. but it is not it's not everything, right? It's just a vehicle to get you where you want to go. So anyways, Flip Connect Media Cast was just created by investors for investors to help mm-hmm. people take them from where they are now and get them where they need to be.
I love it. Guys, we'll link that up in the show notes. And Ben, dude, for anyone that is an investor or an agent that's listening in on this, and they haven't got their first deal done, what advice would you give them to get them out over that hump?
Never give up. I mean, that's a common theme that even when I was locked up, that was the one thing that resonated inside of my mind. Mm-hmm. Never give up. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow is a new day. Tomorrow's a second chance, So regardless of what you're going through, it took me 6 months to get my first deal. You have all these people that are like, 2 weeks out the gate, I got my first deal. That was not my story, right? Yeah. Just stay consistent. Consistency is key, but also make sure that this is where you want to be. At the end of the day, it's not a get rich quick scheme. Mm-hmm. It can be if you have a phenomenal vision and you can learn and implement right away. There's people that do it, right? Yep. There's people that do it in any business. Yep. But just make sure that this is your vision, right? Mm-hmm. Make sure that it's something that you can wake up and hop out of bed every single day and be just as excited as you were the next.
I love it, man. And dude, one quick carrot related question. So if anyone's on the fence about carrot, or maybe they've got carrot and they're just underutilizing it, man, what advice would you give them about either joining carrot or really digging in, rolling up their sleeves and using it?
So I would say that if you Google just about any city in any market in the country, majority of the sites that are ranking are probably either carrot sites or it's another big franchise, or of course like Express Home Buyers, right? Just because Brad Chandler kills it with SEO. But the proof is in the pudding, right? It's built out on the back end for SEO and it's built on the front end. They give you all the tools that you need. And if you just learn and implement, you have that tool at your fingertips, it can change everything, right? And I hear a lot of people talking about, well, all the carrot sites look the same. Yeah. Well, they're kind of built the same, but they give you the ability to craft that into your own site. Like I've put so many different small bells and whistles and created our own spokesperson videos where you can stand out, amongst any other carrot sites just by taking a little bit of time and creativity.
I love it. And guys, one thing that Ben's doing kind of before we part ways, so he's on the advanced marketer plan. And dude, you've got 5 sites. So I'm looking at this right now. You've got the Envision Homes one, the Investor Deal Source. You've got some good domains, dude. Investor Deal Source, Atlanta Fast Offer, Carolina Cash Offers, Cash Property Offers. How are you using Carrot? So I know you've got a few that are for sellers. Are these for, you kind of have ones for different markets where they're out of state markets? Is that what you're doing there?
Yeah. So Envision Homes is the one that I've built so much domain authority on. Yep. And again, hindsight's 2020. If I knew then what I know now, I would have had a catchier domain, just because Envision Homes, you see it like it's not that clear. My old logo almost looked like a home builder, right? Adrian Nez pointed that out. He's like, it looks like a home builder. So anyways, we've pivoted. That's hence the rebranding. Cash Property Offers. I found the domain. Yep. I was pretty shocked that it was open, so I bought it.
Dude, it's good.
And I've crafted our new business around that. So Cash Property Offers, it explained, there's no question in the seller's mind what your business does, right? But with us being in the South, a little bit slower paced here in Columbia, South Carolina, I've also realized that people like to do business with local companies and they want to do business with people that they like and trust. Yep. The big, iBuyer or, international buyers can leave a bad taste in people's mouth. I say bad taste, but it doesn't have that personal touch. which is why I got the Carolina cash offers and then Atlanta fast offer for the Atlanta market. It just gives it a little bit more, homely feel.
Yep.
And so with that, to answer the back end of your question, PPC Carolina cash offers, that's how we're branding. And then I've created city specific pages like, We Buy Houses Columbia SC. And I've put that as the business name. So I've created different Google My Business pages with those keywords. Sell my house fast Columbia. We Buy Houses Columbia. And I've used Carolina cash offers to capture those, right? And I think it all, again, coming back to the pipeline, your sales pipeline, we're just trying to get as many people to our sites as we can. So by having different branding, it also gives me the ability to split test and kind of track those results.
I love it. Well, dude, Ben, thanks for spending the time here. Congrats on the podcast. And dude, like I said, I'm so pumped about what you're doing. Hopefully we can connect in person really soon. I think I'm coming out. I was trying to think. I'll be in Philly, which obviously is in South Carolina. I'll be in Philly in July. And then probably doing those South Carolina trips sometime. I don't know if we're gonna have one this year, but probably next year. When I do, I'll hit you up and let's connect for sure.
Amazing. Sounds like a plan, Trevor.
Well, dude, thank you. Everyone go find Ben's podcast. Go find his podcast. We'll link it up in the show notes. And there's some amazing stuff in there. Mr. Adrian Nez on the Carrot team. He's been on there. And I'm sure I'll get plugged in there sometime soon as well. Ben, thanks, man. Have an amazing rest of the week.
You as well, Trevor. Connect soon.